Lewis in the Black Horse Pub. Lovely scene, isn't it? Well, we haven't got snow outside, although it is minus 3 degrees centigrade. I'm Keith Hayes. This is Mirador Television, broadcasting from the Black Horse Pub in Lewes, East Sussex, the county town. And we've got a packed day. But everybody gets out of bed. I got out of bed at 5 o'clock this morning, and here it is 8 o'clock, and I haven't done a damn thing. Where does the time go? I have no idea. It just flies. Ada isn't in today. Sadly missed. But I suspect everybody's catching a cold except me. Famous last words. So I'm bound to get it now that I've said that I haven't got it. 9 o'clock. We got the two Bs with their usual perceptive approach to the world, their sharp wit, and the fact that they take the pee out of each other. Now, after that, we have Dr. Mark Maybe, who was in London on Wednesday and couldn't be with us. And he will bring us up to date on the latest in the education field. After that, we should have Melissa Conti from New York, followed by Suzanne Musso, also from New York, and possibly with Stefanos with her, the head of the opera company, who are very innovative. So, lots of different things. A packed show. And, well, let's see where it takes us. But as usual, we'll start off with the newspaper headlines. But I think that the talking point always is the weather. So let's see what the weather is. It's going to hit 5 degrees. Oh, balmy. This morning. Clear skies. Starting off at -2. That's the forecaster. The actual temperature outside is -3. It won't reach 5 until 2 o'clock this afternoon. Then it'll start to go downhill again, and we get another cold, freezing point night. So that's the weather for you. I suppose we better go to the news. Gloom and doom though it is. Okay. Let's do that, shall we? The first headline is this man with a scowl on his face and Mr. Netanyahu, the head of the Israeli government, and we start off with The Guardian. Netanyahu We will not accept a Palestinian state after the Gaza war. Aha. That's putting the cat amongst the pigeons. That is indeed putting the cat amongst the pigeons. That's going to get the Middle East to align themselves with Palestine, or at least align themselves against the Israeli state, running into the corridors and deciding what their next move will be. But no single story dominates Friday's front pages. Not everybody is taking this as a serious story. There are a mix of topics. The Guardian leads on Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu telling the United States that he opposes the establishment of a Palestinian state once the conflict in Gaza comes to an end. The White House responded by saying it will continue working towards a two-state solution. So, already a fallout between allies. Not a happy start to the day. The Telegraph. NATO warns of war with Russia in the next 20 years. Yeah. It says, what does it say? The public is told to prepare for a life-changing conflict as Putin triples his military spending. Well, he needs to. His army didn't cover itself with glory, particularly in the Ukraine war. But I wonder, we always assume that iron men like Putin, for that matter, like Stalin, never, ever come to an end. And I wonder what the popular feeling is in Russia itself, amongst the Russian people. I've spent considerable time in Russia. I like them. I think they're very nice people. I didn't find them bellicose at all. Suspicious, yes. Why not? We're suspicious of the Russians. But I wonder whether, in fact, Putin and his warlike chance, his warlike approach to things, will last. It's a question one has to ask. But the Telegraph focuses on a warning from a leading NATO official that the West must prepare for the possibility of war with Russia in the next 20 years. Rob Bauer says that private citizens, as well as the armed forces, must be prepared for the prospect of conflict. Well, we've had warnings before and we've ignored them. If we ignore this one, I guess it's at our own peril. So there we are. Right now, rather more concern probably is the health of our king and of the heirs apparent, Kate and Wills. The Sun headlines: heir H-E-I-R, by the way. Air for you, Kate. It says the Sun has the headline, Air for you, Kate, as Prince William visits Kate in hospital after her abdominal surgery. If there's anything that social media has done, it's just shown what nasty little bees we've got in our society. Apparently, the trolls have been after Will's, poking fun at him for being concerned about his wife. How dumb can you be? How stupid can you be? I guess if some of them are listening to me now, I'm going to get it too. What the hell? I'm too old to worry about it. The Times, a cheeky little measure that could bring health benefits. Aha. Yes. This is not an important story, not a massive story, but it's a story nonetheless. A cheeky little measure that could bring health benefits, and basically it says that landlords will be encouraged not to serve the large glass of wine. In most pubs there are 3 measures at the moment: a small, which I always have, a medium, and a large. And the government is going to urge landlords not to serve the large one, because it says it encourages binge drinking. So, you know what that means, don't you? I mean, it's very typical of government to ignore the obvious. Instead of 1, people will have 2. And I rather think that 2 medium is more than 1 large. Who? Well, there you go. I don't think I got a picture for this next one. The next story is, and this is also in the Times, teachers are locked in for their own safety. Now, this is disturbing. The newspaper, although it covers the Prince of Wales going to visit Kate, it leads on a story about how behavior of pupils at some schools is so bad that there are no-go areas and that teachers have to lock themselves inside for safety. And that comes from the new head of Ofsted, the governing body for education. And that's a bit frightening. It's a bit worrying, to say the least. The eye. It goes back to the story of the week or the day or whatever you want to call it, I think. It orders an inquiry into a second post office IT scandal. And we picked up on this story yesterday. The government has ordered an inquiry into more post office IT scandal claims. totally divorced from the Horizon one, a totally new scandal that was known about and allowed to continue. What on earth the post office was up to, heaven only knows. But it just shows you the standard of some of our civil servants. Is they make one small mistake, they cover it up, and that leads to a bigger mistake, and they cover that up, and then eventually they're backed into a corner, try to retire with an honor, an OBE, a CBE, a knighthood, or whatever, only for it to catch up to them as they get cracking. Okay, the Financial Times. Hunt signals a wish to cut taxes and hold 2 budgets before the next election. That's pushing it a bit. He's only got really 11 months left now in which to do that. 2 budgets and a tax cut. When yesterday we had a report that world stock markets were taking flight because of the tense situation in the Middle East, Ukraine. In other words, not a happy picture for positive and strong growth of economies. So cutting taxes and cutting interest rates and other things to stimulate the economy, it become very difficult. So Jeremy Hunt is going to have a tough time as Chancellor. He's always got that smirk on his face. I don't know why he's always with that funny smile. Yeah, the FT leads on a story about how Chancellor Jeremy Hunt wishes to cut taxes and hold 2 new budgets before the next election. It also has a story on how Arab countries are working on a ceasefire plan for the war in Gaza. Well, the Daily Express goes the same way. Excuse me while I chew a bit of chocolate. Just to keep my energy levels up. Hunt plots big tax cuts in the budget. It's a simple, straightforward story. Jeremy Hunt plans to slash taxes. The Mirror. It has a story which is headlined "Left to Rot." And what it says is that the report said 100,000 children are hospitalized with rotten teeth over the last 5 years. And basically the paper says, as bad teeth send 116 children a day to hospital, and a staggering 40% are not getting regular NHS checkups. We ask, why are our kids being left to rot? Usual forthright, it's somebody else's fault. From the Mirror. The Daily Mail, in their banner, they are the paper pointing out that online trolls are attacking William for looking after his wife and children. And they say this is sheer spite. And I agree. Sheer spite. You would think in this day and age, people would know better, but they don't. The internet, social media has given them an opportunity to vent their spleen, which has no basis in anything. Just that we have a sector or a section or a segment of our citizenry who are just mean, nasty, clueless people who can think of nothing better than to have a go at somebody else. And that apparently makes them feel better. How crazy. He's got another banner. The Sussexes and Harry and wife are like two limpets sucking nutrients out of the rusty hull of the Royal Yacht. But the basic story that it's covering is it's saying, do not defy the will of the people. And apparently Rishi Sunak has sent a message to the House of Lords saying, if you give the Rwanda bill a bad time, you'll be going against the wishes of the people. And you do that, and you do it at your peril. And I think that the Lords just have to be careful. There are many people who think that it is a redundant house. There are a good many more. I think it's redundant the way that it's constituted. We need a second chamber, which most democratic governments have, but not the way that it is set up at the moment. So if in fact it is the will of the people, and I think it's the will of the people to find some solution to the boat people, they are playing with fire. They're playing with fire indeed. What else have we got? The Metro. Warning. As the UK freezes over. NHS ice advice. Be a penguin. The Metro leads on a story about the NHS advising people to waddle like penguins to avoid slipping in the icy weather. Well, now, I've never heard that one before. Anti-slipping measures. Waddle like a penguin. I waddle like a penguin anyway because I can't walk properly. I'll be surrounded by people not being able to walk properly or waddling like a penguin. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. What's our Daily Star? What's our lovely Daily Star up to? Heavens, the Pope calls bedroom shenanigans a gift from God. Thou shalt have rumpy pumpy, it says. A picture of His Holiness holding up a gravestone with carved on it, thou shalt have rumpy pumpy. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. First thing in the morning, oh, the Star goes with the headline, thou shalt have rumpy pumpy, after Pope Francis said that sexual pleasure is a gift from God that should be disciplined with patience. Oh, 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 such stories first thing in the morning. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. But it's good to know that carnal knowledge has the papal blessing. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. What will they think of next? I think for the moment, that's the front pages. Let's have a look. -2 degrees it started off at. And that's wrong to begin with, because right now it's -3. And it's not going to warm up terribly fast today. All morning, it's going to hover around freezing. And only at midday will it surge to 3 degrees. Ooh. By 2 o'clock, it may have reached 5 degrees. And then it starts to slip back again. 4 degrees, 3 degrees, 2 degrees. And by 6 o'clock tonight, we're back to freezing again. And the evening and the night is going to stay at freezing. Tomorrow, wow, almost summer. It's going to start at 5 degrees, which is very warm compared to today, but it's only going to go up a degree and reach 6 degrees. Scattered cloud, some sunshine. Today is sunny with light winds. Tomorrow, it doesn't say that it's going to have any wind at all. Don't go sunbathing, though. Sunny and light winds. Reaching 5 today, 6 tomorrow. Oh, and Sunday, return of the rain. But because we've got cloud cover, it's going to hold the heat in, and it's going to go up to 12. And it's going to stay that way for a few days. 11, 13, 12 at the beginning of next week. But it's also going to rain. So not a great bright picture. Let's just take a little dig deeper into the papers. The Times reports that with the tax burden on course to be at its highest level in the post-war era, the Treasury is thought to already be considering reductions to personal taxes, such as income and inheritance. The Daily Express says Chancellor Jeremy Hunt admitted voters were very, very angry about the record high tax burden. It believes his pledges to prioritize the economy will be music to the ears of everyone who wants to see Britain thriving. But it said he needs to deliver, and he's going to find it very tough. The Financial Times says the Chancellor left open the possibility of holding two budgets before an election, depending on when the country goes to the polls. One senior unnamed government figure told the Financial Times that the chance of squeezing in an autumn budget would allow the government to highlight tax cuts at three successive fiscal events after some tax cuts last autumn. The Guardian, the March budget will be one of the last opportunities for the Conservatives to claw back Labour's huge opinion poll lead. It says Mr. Hunt's room for manoeuvre will be revealed only when he receives the latest economic reports. But according to the paper, the Chancellor made clear that only unexpected bad news over the coming weeks would prevent him answering the calls from Tory MPs for a substantial giveaway before the next election. The Daily Mirror has seen new figures suggesting there is a dental health crisis among children. It says 116 of them a day needed teeth pulling out in 2022. With 40% of children no longer having regular NHS teeth checks. It's launching a campaign to get dental access for all. And the Daily Telegraph carries a warning from a top NATO official, the Dutch Admiral Rob Bauer, that civilians and government need to prepare for an all-out war with Russia in the next 20 years. The paper says Russia has tripled its military expenditure to 40% of its national budget and is speeding up manufacturing lines. In other words, it's making and turning out off the assembly line more tanks and bombs and bullets. Well, not the best picture, that's for sure. Is there anything local that we need to take note of? It was yesterday. Eastbourne man sentenced, A23, A27 and M23 road closures in place. Littlehampton attack sees a man hospitalised with serious head injuries. No, nothing terribly important except the worries about the weather. Because if we get bad weather, this part of the world suffers a great deal from flooding. And the Met Office has warned of colder than average conditions across Sussex and the UK. That's more or less it. I'll have a little more to say in a minute. But the first thing we'll do is we will go down to our favourite place, what I call our potter's wheel, one of the most historic places in Lewes, Southover Grange Park. Lovely, lovely park. Beautiful park. But its history goes back almost to the time of the conquest. Not far off. So whenever you walk into that park, you get a real feeling of the background to Lewes and the history that has passed through those gates. Now, I'm going to have a little rant because I have traveled the world. Not sure that I set out to do it, but that's what happened to me. And I've been in places like Russia, the Balkans, the Baltics, parts of Europe, and other areas that traditionally over the last couple of 100 years have involved themselves in war. And I often wonder why. What is it that makes our leaders so bellicose? They are always threatening one another. Because to be quite honest with you, in most of, if not really all of the countries that I've been to, or 60 of them, the people are generous, kind, friendly, I'm very happy to mix and to share kindness, consideration, warmth. And here we are talking about fighting the Russians again. And yet, one of the countries that I love the most, and I love the people, is Russia. The people are lovely people. And I have been befriended in Russia by military people. I have in the Balkans as well. And they have always treated me very kindly. In fact, on the banks of the Moscow River, a few miles from the heart of Moscow, there is a greenhouse with tomatoes in, and half of them are mine, looked after by the owner of the dacha in whose grounds they stand, a dacha being just a small country house, by a man named Yuri. Not going to give you his surname. Wouldn't mean anything anyway, but I don't want to endanger them in any way. Who is a former nuclear sub-commander. And when we're in the dacha, not only do the two of us lovingly tend our tomatoes and compare his side of the greenhouse with my side of the greenhouse, which he's supposed to be looking after for me, to see who has the better crop. But we have a little sip of vodka to help us in our endeavors. And we laugh. And we cheer. We throw our hats in the air. We do all the things to show joie de vivre. Keith and Yuri, Russian and British, in happy communion. And we have a jolly good time. His family are loving and caring, and in fact have visited me here in Lewis. And at one time had plans to send their children to Lewis Old Grammar School. Well, events have stopped that. But why is it that at this level we can enjoy the simple pleasures of life? That I can look at a Russian and say, what a decent chap you are. And he can look at me, a Brit, and say, wow, I enjoy your company, Keith. And two steps up, we've got exactly the opposite. That the animosity and bellicosity, if that's a word, warlike attitudes prevail. It has always been a mystery to me, and we say that we're in a democracy. Even the Russians say that they're in a democracy. But it doesn't seem to me that the will of the people goes very far when it comes to peaceful activities and getting along with each other. Why is that? Why is it that the higher you get in office, And presumably, the cleverer you are, the smarter you are, the better educated you are to reach those high offices, your thoughts not inadvertently, always turn to violence, to whether you can punch the other guy in the nose before he punches you. What is it? And why is it, in a so-called democracy, that the system prevents the kindness and warmth of the average person, the average citizen, from seeping through to those people at a higher level? Surely there is something wrong. Surely we should be looking and saying, why can't we have peace on earth? Oh, okay. Most people will turn up their nose and say, oh, Keith, you dreamer. Or maybe I am a dreamer, and maybe you are dreamers. And maybe it is impossible, but nobody asks why. Nobody actually forensically picks apart these awful feelings which our leaders display. Why? I mean, they're there. I accept that they're there, but nobody asks why. We spend millions on royal commissions looking into half a bottle of champagne and a bit of Christmas cake. Why don't we put that money to good use to see whether, in fact, democracy could reflect the will of the people? Rishi Sunak today warns the Lords. You interfere with my Rwanda bill and you're going against the will of the people. Well, yeah, I suppose. What it really means is not against that particular policy, but against doing something to stem the tide of illegal immigration. That's what he means. What he says is the will of the people. And I can't help but think that there is a large element of BS about that. Nobody seems to care about the will of the people, even though it is patently on display. And the more that we actually mingle internationally, the more it's on display. People don't want to lose their loved ones to bombs and bullets. Excuse me. People don't want to have the privations of a war in their backyard, or for that matter, overseas. They're causing hardship at home because of oil routes being tampered with, trade routes being abolished, essential goods stopped from being exported. That's war. As much as standing in a trench. Do we stand in a trench anymore? I don't think so. But hand-to-hand fighting on the ground will always be part of war. So we have to come to the conclusion that if we send our young men to war, some of them are going to die grappling with the enemy. The enemy? Hang on. These are the people that I spent a lovely weekend at the Dasher with. who are looking after my tomatoes, who share their vodka with me and play Yahtzee and laugh and giggle. That's who they are. But I have to fight hand to hand and grapple with them in the front line. I'm not a peacenik. I recognize the practicalities of life, but I don't subscribe to the fact that war and not loving thy neighbor have to be part of them. And it is something that we never scientifically look at. We never look at in a social sense. We just accept. In some far distant field, our leaders are falling out with the leaders of my tomato keepers, of my hosts at the dacha, and my drinking companion, who, when he gets drunk, gets laughing, not morose. What is it that makes us want to batter one another over the head? In fact, I suspect we don't. It's our leaders. The last thing that they're going to take a look at is their underbelly. Oh, people say, yeah, it's this morning. the dreamer. Yeah, I am. But Mirador asks the questions which others fail to ask. And my question, and this television station's question, is not why do you get bellicose thoughts, but why don't we actually look at the reasons behind us getting into that state of mind to see whether we can come up with some sort of solution that would see peace in our time. Okay, I'm going to disappear for 5 minutes, and then I should be back with the two bees. And I expect they're in very good form today. Very good form. From Lewis in the Black Horse Pub. I just want to say before I take the break, there's a lady from the United States called Carol Sanders who regularly reacts to what we say and what we do and what we show. And I only noticed that she'd made a contribution just before I started the process of closing us down. And so I've lost what she had to say. Carol, we appreciate you sending in thoughts. Don't stop. I lost this one. Doesn't mean to say that we don't read and appreciate your thoughts. Toodle pip.